Hey, I'm a MacBook.
I'm also a MacBook. I got the Intel chip. Intel is for intelligent.
I've got the new M1 chip and I'm fast, like really fast. What can you do?
Yeah, well, I'm just as fast and I can run Android emulators, virtual machines, and Docker.
Not bad. I can build JavaScript projects and Xcode projects much faster than you can.
Docker, virtualization.
Hey, you okay, buddy?
Where's my charger?
Battery died.
Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Ziskind, and if this is your first time here, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you like this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. It really helps me out. So we're doing some real-world developer tests with actual code, actual machines, my actual development machine, and today an actual project that I'm contributing to, an open source project. This happens to be a NativeScript plugins build, but the repo actually contains an NX workspace. And NX workspaces are large JavaScript enterprise geared projects. They're basically a workspace that allows you to share code and have an easier time setting things up, sharing configurations, and so on. So the NativeScript plugins repo, the new one, is actually built on NX workspaces. I'm going to go ahead and install this, clone the repo, and do a build on both of these machines right here, side by side at the same time, and we'll see who is going to win. All right, so I do have the MacBook Air and the MacBook Hot Air. Just kidding, this is the MacBook Pro. The specs are, this MacBook Pro has an i9 processor and Intel chip with 64 gigs of RAM. So pretty beefy machine. This MacBook Air is just the new M1 chip with 16 gigs of RAM. Much less RAM, I don't know how fast the speed is, and the M1 chip. Let's begin. So right here I have my code folder, and I'm going to go ahead, I already ran this, so I have some of these stored in my history here on the terminal. I'm gonna git clone this repo right here, the NativeScript plugins repo. And I'm gonna do the same thing over here on the right side with the MacBook Air. So that cloned pretty quickly on both of them. That's all good. Let's go into that directory here. And let's go into that directory here. Now, I'm going to prepare this. The command to prepare it is npm run setup. What does this do? Well, this command actually is one of the commands I want to test the performance on, and this command sets things up. It cleans the repository up, so it removes all the stuff that was generated, like node modules, things like that, and then it does an npm installation of all the dependencies, and that could take a little bit of time. That's why I want to test this out. npm run setup on this one as well, and I'm gonna synchronously press the return key on both of these, hopefully at the same time. Let's go ahead and do that. Now I'm gonna have this video play in real time while it's doing this so that you know exactly how long it takes. And you can see that the MacBook Air is clearly winning already. At this part, so far so good. All right, so the MacBook Air is almost done. We have a bunch of dependencies that are being installed right now. This one is a little bit behind. Node installation, Husky, and it's done. MacBook Air is done. This one is still working. Catching up, but it's almost there. Not too much more to go. This one's done. So you see that there's a difference there. And yeah, you could say, okay, maybe that took an extra 5 or 6 seconds, sure. But you know, over the long term, this is clearly the winner for doing an npm installation because this is gonna add up. Here comes the surprising part. I'm gonna continue with the setup. Let's just clear the screen here. Same thing here. And I'm gonna run the next step, which is npm start. So this is how you actually kick things off with this repository. You issue the start command, and this gives you a menu of options you can run. So you can try out the different NativeScript plugins. This is the official NativeScript plugins repository, by the way. And you can run different apps here. You can clean the demo applications. You can test out each of the different plugin builds separately, but there's this interesting command right here, the build all command. So what this does is actually builds all the included packages, and that's the one I want to run because, well, I want to see how long it takes, right? Because that's a pretty intensive operation. It's going to take a few minutes to do that. I'm not going to bore you with the details of watching the whole thing happen in real time in this case, but I want to kick things off at the exact same time, and then we'll talk about the results. So let me go ahead and click return on both of these, and things got kicked off. So you will see that things are pretty even right now. The MacBook Air seems to be a little bit ahead of the MacBook Pro, but not by much, just a little bit. Looks like the TypeScript compilation step might be a little bit faster on the MacBook Air. Don't forget that this machine is severely underpowered compared to, let's say, the MacBook Pro that's gonna be coming out with the next generation of Apple chips. Also, it's probably underpowered compared to the MacBook Pro M1, which I'm not even testing here. I will be getting the Mac Mini in, and I will do the same exact test on the Mac Mini because I'm curious to see what's gonna happen in that case. So what's happening right now? Right now you can see that the MacBook Air is in fact winning still. However, you can see there's an inflection point coming up where the MacBook Pro is gonna start catching up. I know because I just ran this test right before I shot this video, and that just tells me something here about the new M1 processor. Now this MacBook Air, as you might or might not know, doesn't have a fan in it at all. And that's why I made the joke initially, is the MacBook Air, it's very cold to the touch right now, but this one is hot. Like, I cannot work with this thing on my lap a lot of times when I'm doing intensive processes like this. The MacBook Pro heats up quite a bit, is blowing hot air in my face, is blowing hot air on my knees. It's not so pleasant. It is a very beefy machine, but there comes a time during an intensive process such as this one where the fans eventually kick on and things progress just as they were before. The processing gets compensated and cooled down by the fans. Whereas here, what's gonna happen is we will see that this one is not going to win. I'm sorry to give it away, but what happens is the fans don't kick on this one, and it has to throttle the processor. So this is almost done. Let's just take a quick look at who wins. We're building the last plugin right now, or maybe almost the last plugin. Come on, come on. Okay, so it's still a pretty close call. Looks like actually the MacBook Air won this time around. So I was wrong. The first time I ran this, the MacBook Pro beat the MacBook Air by a few seconds. This time, the MacBook Air beat the MacBook Pro by a few seconds. What happened the first time around? Well, the first time I think what happened was that this one throttled because of the intense pressure that the CPU was under. So it throttled and then it slowed down a little bit. I want you to see one more thing. I'm gonna back up one directory, here and here, and I'm gonna remove the plugins directory. And let's see who is faster in this case, because it has to chug through a lot of files to delete them. Okay, so the deletions of a large file system folder is much faster on a MacBook Air, on the new M1 chip. And this is actually pretty useful when you got a node modules folder and you want to delete it. Or, like I recently did in a recent video where I deleted 100 gigabytes of node module folders from previous projects that have been taking up space on my machine. That process took a number of minutes to chug through and find all the node modules folders and delete them, and probably would have been much faster on the new M1 processor. So that's a bit of information that's extra as well. What I'm gonna do is actually run this one more time so I can speed this up. I'm not gonna run all the steps in real time in the video, but I'll just show you the results towards the end of the next build. So I'm gonna do this one more time. Okay, here we are. I went ahead and cloned the repo one more time. I'm gonna run the build all command yet again. It's kind of a close call, I'd say, but I'm gonna go ahead and click enter at the same time here. Let's do this. And they're off to the races. I'll see you when this is done. All right, folks, we're just about done with this build, and I see that the MacBook Air just finished and the MacBook Pro is catching up. Again, maybe 5 to 10 seconds later, the MacBook Pro finishes. And we have the results. The results are that the MacBook Pro finished first time, the second round, the MacBook Air won, and the third round, again, the MacBook Air won, but not by much. So this is a pretty big build, and we saw the differences are not that crazy. But when you consider the fact that this machine has 64 gigs of RAM with an i9 processor, and this is just a MacBook Air, then you have to wonder what's gonna happen when you try this on a MacBook Pro with an M1 chip, and especially with the MacBook Pros that are coming out hopefully in 2021. I want to see that. Maybe they'll call it the M2 chip. Who knows? So here's some real world results for you from a developer to developers. Let me know down in the comments below if there is something more specific you want to see, and maybe we'll do that. Thanks for watching this. Hope you enjoyed it. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.